Okay. So this is the February 8th, 2022 meeting of the Diagnostics Working Group. We have a fairly light agenda. So this is the February 8th, 2022 meeting of the Diagnostics Working Group. You're not supposed to be doing that. There you go. Should be fixed. So is there anything we need to do? We're just jumping in the agenda. Let's see, we got two items really. The meeting time. Did everybody fill out the doodle for that one to change it? If not, please do. It looked like there was a meeting time that was early in the morning for me, if I remember, that had 4. Yeah, they're pretty. Meeting times are split. There's no good meeting time for everybody. So there might just not be a good meeting time, period. Don't know what we want to do about it. I'd prefer not to be up at 3 a.m., but it's doable.
So, might be a good idea to just have like rotating meetings or something they do for other things. TSC does that, don't they?
They do, but usually one of the meetings has a higher attendance than the other. So,
yeah.
Well,
I know we've had like a bunch of people that like have been interested in attending but haven't been able to because of the current time slot. I don't know if putting it at having another at a different time would help that.
We've already moved it, I think, twice in the past year. Once, twice.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure moving it is really going to help. I think just at least with this doodle.
Not just moving it, but like if we like set up a rotation, we might get more people. Just having a meeting at some other time.
True, but if we have a rotating meeting, would probably split the focus because you don't want people to kind of have zero overlap between the meetings, but discussing the same thing.
I think that mostly if we have a rotating meeting, we should have more, I don't know, issues or something in the agenda for that, because right now we have few items, and I think I'm planning to finish the user journey documentation soon, and then perhaps we can go back with the deep dive meetings to make it accessible for everyone. So, but at this time, I'm not sure about the current items for a rotating meeting.
That's true. There isn't too much development for feature wise that we're doing right now. At least in the meetings. I think another possibility is we stop having meetings and we move to GitHub for all these efforts. Seems fine to me.
Yeah, it makes sense to me as well. Mostly of the discussions will be asynchronously in that situation.
Yeah. So I guess all my notes are we could try to pick between a rotating meeting or canceling. If it's between rotating meeting or canceling, I'd personally prefer just canceling meetings. We could call for a vote if we want, or we could just say it. Rotating.
Canceling,
Favor.
I would be okay with the canceling, but we'd probably want to replace that with like not just like interacting on the issues, but we should try to still have like a time sensitive check-in issue or something. Just like continue the same,
Yeah.
like every couple of weeks or something, have an issue that's just like
Yeah,
everyone check in, reevaluate. Is like not having actual video call meetings still fine? Is like status of things, all that.
I think that in the script for the creation of the meeting could have some conditional check-ins for at least 3 or more meetings, or at least actually a new flag that is required a call to discuss that. In some situations, the video call is really interesting, to fix something.
Yep.
So we're saying we would schedule those with a label rather than periodic, rather than every other week or anything.
Yeah, like schedule it based in the necessity. I mean, if we have more than, I don't know, three items to be discussed that need to be in the video call, we schedule a call to fix it in a single call instead of schedule every periodically, even if we don't have items enough for that.
So still have the call, longer period between them. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Actually, I don't think that I have explained it correctly, but it's more once you have a new flag that is, I don't know, deep dive or something that we already have in some issue, and we have more than one item with that, and then the script code schedule a new call for that, and then we solve it. Otherwise, we try to fix it or to discuss it asynchronously in the GitHub. It is just a suggestion. I'm not sure what.
Sure, that seems fine.
We could also just leave the meetings basically as they are and have like we already have like the issue is created for it like a while before. We could just have whoever's going to be the like lead of the call check in like a day before and ask like, do we need to have this? Like if enough people don't say like, yes, I want to actually have a call, then just don't have it.
Yeah, I'm
That
agree
makes
too.
sense to me as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna take this as the takeaway. So host will, I would say, what, generally cancel if there's not enough discussion.
Yeah, just like
Feedback.
cancel early if there's not really anyone.
do we still want to change the meeting time in this case, or just leave it for now?
We can maybe bring it down to like once a month or something. Like we are going over the same stuff a lot.
Yep.
It's not a huge amount of activity actually happening right now.
Sure. Okay, so we're gonna move it to once a month. I will deal with that, and then we will do feedback 24 hours in advance of meeting. Sounds good. We can move on to the next agenda item. I think we spent a little while ramping up. This is identifying async use cases beyond async local storage. Does anybody have anything on this?
It's still kind of just sitting there. There hasn't been any feedback in a while, and
So
we're mostly just like deciding what we should do about it.
So I did talk with our side of things at work, and at least for Datadog's current path forward, because the thing we need is not really possible currently in async hooks, we think it's fine to effectively stop using async hooks if async local storage becomes viable.
Okay. Yeah, we should put together a list of like specific stuff that we need to add to async local storage to make it do what we need.
The only thing that we need, that our team, at least, so a little bit of preface, although Stephen and I work at the same company, we're on different teams. The only thing our team needs is the execution and trigger resource to both be available as different ways of storing data. Right now, you cannot store data you cannot associate the trigger resource with your current local storage. But that's true with async hooks as well.
Just to recap, I have seen this issue several times, but the idea of this issue is to identify the usage of async hooks, the raw async hooks instead of async local storage, just to make sure that we have all the features supported by async local storage and make it safe instead of experimental.
Yep.
Yeah, the basic intention of this particular issue is we want to deprecate async hooks or like mark it as legacy or something to just discourage people using it and give them something that's safe.
Okay, yeah, I think that Node Clinic use it. I need just to map and provide feedback. But also, I think that would be great to create a tweet in order to get more feedbacks from maintainers.
So to be clear, for diagnostic purposes, there's a high performance cost of turning them on versus what we think async local storage should cost.
Yeah. Actually, we are only enabling it to track every cow and show it. It is not production. It is not to be run in the production, just to summarize a bit.
Yeah, so at Datadog, we are running production environments, and async hooks are way too costly to ever run it.
Yeah.
I really want us to actually invest in doing something better than async hooks. We actually need the functionality in V8 for profiling. So I kind of want us to actually just build a thing in V8. It's not quite so terrible.
Yeah, actually, I did an experimental version, just a performance in comparison by enable async rooks in Node Clinic using the V14 and also in 16. And the 16 was way better because the async rooks was not fired enough. In the prior versions, I'm not sure if it was a V8 change, but it was firing a lot of events. Most of them is duplicated. So we could investigate it, and I don't know. But in order I mean, I think that this issue is blocked for two major reasons. The first one, actually, for a single major reason, that is, we don't have enough feedback to make to deprecate async rooks, right?
What, okay, so what qualifies enough feedback?
Yeah, it would be my question as well.
I think if we put a runtime warning, for example, we will get feedback. Until that point, we're not going to get feedback.
Yeah, we only will get feedback from maintainer mostly. I mean, I think that a runtime deprecation would be too risky or too annoying for users. But if we create a tweet or something in the node.js account, we could get more use cases, edge cases, or something like this.
So we have precedent of just doing warnings, not deprecations. So it still functions entirely. You just get a warning message.
Okay.
I think that would certainly give you feedback. At least my history with things like ES modules and requesting feedback from newsletters, from Twitter, wherever, you don't get much feedback.
Yeah, makes sense.
But the moment we put warnings on things in ES modules, we got actual feedback.
We got a lot, I guess.
People simply, if it is not showing up, they don't care. Even maintainers. So a good example of this was AWS was having something going on with ES modules, and we couldn't quite tell what, because Lambda and Cloud Functions, all these functions as a service, are very secretive about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't talk to us. And then we added warnings, and then they showed up in issue threads asking for fixes. So the only way we got feedback was when we made warnings show up in their console, and that made their business side care. They similarly, for APM vendors, a decent amount of them are somewhat secretive in what they're actually doing. I don't think we're going to get good feedback unless we make their business side able to see that they need to get involved.
Yeah, my I don't know, I just wondering in case of we get some feedback and those feedback is not fixable in a moment, and then they need to use to with a warning without some workaround. I mean,
So there's the no warnings flag. They really don't want it to show up.
yeah, there is it, but it will disable all the other warnings, right?
Does
But
it not take options? I think it.
but I mean, what is the problem to do not deprecate it, but instead make a warning in the documentation of the sync groups.
Nobody reads documentation.
Well said.
Yeah, but I mean,
Trying to get rid of the
that-
buffer constructor and require dot extensions for years. It's just not effective. People use it because it fixes their business need.
But my question is, we should deprecate it to make a sync local storage stable, or we can, or those things is not related. We can make a sync local storage a non-experimental, even if a sync rook is not deprecated.
So right now, async local storage is not experimental. Only a couple methods are on it.
Okay, it's only the run, right? Run or executed, if you remember.
Async local storage, I think, has a few that aren't. The class is not. Disable is experimental. Enter with is experimental. Exit is experimental. So we have get, store, and run are stable. Is that the only two? I think async resource has various stable things, it looks like, too.
Yeah.
So async resource is all stable. Yeah.
So
Yeah, we made both stable so that people would have a path forward that like we can point to, like you use this thing instead of async hooks. It's actually stable, and async hooks is not. So.
Yep.
Okay, so the idea is just to deprecate the sync groups because of the performance issues and other edge cases. I thought that it was something related to a sync local storage, making it more safer or stable, but okay, so for me,
Well,
sense too.
async hooks, like it's too low level. It exposes too much internals, and because of that, like it actually makes async local storage slower than it could be. Like async local storage actually only uses a limited subset of async hooks. It's like if we can just like deprecate async hooks or like remove it entirely, we can make async local storage just more directly connect to the parts that it actually needs to, and probably make it quite a bit faster. And yeah, just the whole like safety, like exposing internals, like we've had a security push for Node over the last couple of years, like trying to lock down interfaces and things like that. And that doesn't really help us if we have this other API just leaking all over the place. So it would be good to get rid of, like, plug that big hole, basically.
And it's not just performance from CPU wise. Like memory is always a problem. Like, so whenever you do stuff with async local storage, for example, every async local storage that you create actually has to propagate independently every time. So every single async hook event that fires, it assigns a property for every currently active async local storage and stuff like that. So you start not to leak memory, but to use a lot of memory.
Yeah. Okay, I will take a look with more calm in the Node Clinic Bubble Prop specifically, which is the tool that makes use of sync hooks, and check if I can make it with async local storage.
Yeah, and we're not necessarily out of ideas here. So one thing that we're doing at Datadog is we're using Diagnostics channel instead of async hooks for things. And so that may just mean we need to put diagnostic channel events directly in Node's core. If that may be a workaround to avoid async hooks, for example.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we are enable async hooks because we are using the trace events flag for V8, and then it triggers the async hooks in each event. So I'm not sure if we could make it with async local storage because it is fired by the node.js itself.
And we could just change that triggers stuff. There's I forget what the name of the file is, but there's like a specific file for like connecting trace events and async hooks, and we could just like add another way to trigger that.
Okay. Yeah, I can look at it with someday. I mean, I think this week or the next one, I will probably be talking with the Node Clinic members, and then we discuss a bit over it. But okay, it's a deal.
Yeah, if it's in V8, it'll be less costly as well. Because it won't have to jump between C++ and JavaScript as much, for example.
Yep. Yeah, I've been wanting to have essentially the idea that I've had is to make an equivalent of like there's JavaScript function and then there's bound function. So I want to make basically an equivalent of bound function, but instead of binding arguments, you bind a context to it. And then whenever you run it, it'll make that the current context. And then just have like an interface to get the context.
I know Chromium does this with the Windows settings object, but I don't know how they do it. Because you can have multiple Windows settings object in a single frame. Maybe they've done something.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be worth talking about that offline, actually. But yeah, I need like that same thing for profiling right now, basically. So I'm currently actually using async hooks to like wire that up externally through some horrible hacks. But basically I have like an async local storage and async hooks using the like before and after trigger to like pass the current state of the async local storage into something else. But yeah, I need that for profiling. We're trying to pass labels through on each sample. It's basically trying to copy what Go does.
Okay. Do we have anything else? It seems like we're more just chatting at this point. We just are saying we need more feedback. We need to look into what Clinic is doing. If they could use maybe diagnostics channel or trace events directly without async hooks and async local storage instead of async hooks. And then we don't really have a good way to get more feedback, but we could add a warning. So I don't want to do that until we hear back from Clinic.
Yep. Yeah. not sure we have like an immediate task to do, at least in Node. Yeah, just wait on Node Clinic and then decide what to do.
So can we give that as an action item?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put that in the notes. Are you gonna do that, Rafael?
Take a look in the clinic to make it work with a single local storage.
Just without async hooks.
Okay.
That is
Yeah.
the real thing. It is not about replacing async hooks with local storage. It is about not using async hooks.
Actually, sorry.
Go ahead.
Actually, what we need in the clinic side is just track all the asynchronous event and create some graphs from that. But yeah, I will try to make it work, and otherwise I will post it in the issue and likely send some message in the diagnostic channel in the Slack. But yeah, I will just need to plan some time to take a look on that. But likely in the next meeting, I might have some feedback.
Okay. All right. I think that's everything.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see you all later. Have a good one.
Okay.